It's not often that you start a podcast with a guy who tells you that he did not wear any of the same clothing for one entire semester of college. It doesn't happen often, but it happens today on this episode with Rob Patz. I want to welcome you again to Evolve Through God, and I want to let you know that this episode with Rob is an absolute joy. He has an infectious laugh and a fun personality, and his walk with God will leave you asking, what does God tell me when I say it's not fair? One of my favorite parts of the episode, for sure, is our conversation on what God tells Rob when he tells God that it's not fair. So we'll hope you listen to the whole episode, and we're going to bring on Rob. Welcome to Evolve Through God. My name is Angela Goodman. I am your host for today's episode and likely the rest of them. Today, I am very excited to have on a special guest. His name is Rob Patz, and Rob and I met through actually a Facebook group because that's how you meet people these days.
It sounds very 2026, doesn't it? How did you meet? Through a Facebook group.
Yeah, I don't know. That might actually be like 2013, probably.
It probably is. But I'm old, so I'm still it's like a good pair of shoes. I don't want to get rid of them yet.
Oh yeah, no, I feel that way too. I think 2009 for me on Facebook, and yeah, it feels like forever ago. It's all been at least, oh my God, we're getting close to 20 years now. 20 years on Facebook.
I will be 20 years next year. I was 2007 is when first time I logged on and created a profile. So next year's 20 years of Facebook.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Oh man. Okay. Well, that's not why we're here today, obviously. So Rob, I'm excited to have you on today. I don't know anything about your story, which is my favorite because our relationships with God are also unique. And I love to see how he works in our lives. So I'd love to just kind of get you started with how soon did you really know God existed?
Well, it's a great question because I grew up in a pastor's home, and I love telling this story. So I grew up in a pastor's home, and it's a neat story. My mom and dad were basically told that they weren't going to be able to have children. My mom and dad had a procedure done that was very experimental at the time, and voila, God blessed them with an adorable child, which was me. There was only one. So just for those that were wondering if there were more kids than me, there was the one child situation. But mom and dad had prayed and really had seek what God wanted. They took the chance and really plunged into having a specialist come from Boston and do the surgery for my mom, and it worked, and it was very cool. But at an early age, I remember, or I've been told the stories of being plopped up on the pulpit and going, "Hey, love this little bundle of joy." And I did, and my dad grew churches, and by the time really, and it's a really great question. I had a friend of mine talk to me about this last night. I was 5 years old. I'm going to be six, but it was the summer of I was still 5 years old, and I had been going to church events, VBS, all of these. And the side note on this is all my cousins, their dads were pastors too. So not only did I go to my VBS, but it was kind of required that you go to all the other VBSs of all your other relatives. So I collected a lot of stuff over the summer at different VBS events. But that year, in August of that year before I turned six, I came to my mom and I said, I really want to understand and I want God to live in my heart. And probably an unfair advantage for me. I grew up being front and center with my dad, heard my dad preach sometimes 5 times a week. And so I know there are people that say, well, that's too young, or was it real? It was real. It was a very real experience for me. And it's been an amazing time. Now, I'm not going to say that all life has been perfect because it hasn't. The reality is, once you become a Christian, no matter what age you're at, you're still going to have things. And I grew up and of course had my teenage years, and we won't talk about any of those. Luckily.
Oh, come on now. You don't want to talk about any of those? Those are the stories people need to hear.
Luckily, social media did not exist during that time of my life, because I think I probably would have been in a lot more trouble than I really was. And it was interesting because, like you said, those are the stories I wasn't always a very nice person. I'll be very honest with you. There were parts of my life during that time where I was very popular, and I don't say that out of a bragging thing. I say that out of the fact that that was what caused part of the problem. Isn't I wasn't very nice to people.
Yeah.
I wasn't. Between my junior and senior year, God really got a hold of me, and during my senior year, which I was one of those kids that like accelerated everything so I could get out of my senior year as quick as possible because I didn't really want to be there.
Hmm.
But I tried during my senior year to make right what I had done to so many people. And
What did you do?
um, I was not nice. It
What did
just
you
we'll leave it
do?
at just I was the one that and I wasn't always the one that said see when you're a pastor's kid, you learn how to pass off the responsibility to other people to get them in trouble and then you just kind of walk through going, don't know how that happened. But I was an instigator in a lot of situations that and I know I did. I hurt people, I hurt their feelings, I hurt their their mental state. And it really made me as I've gotten older, I was like, I don't can't believe I was that way. But God got a hold of me in a meeting. Um that's the spring of my between my junior and senior year, and literally I laid on the floor for 45 minutes. Whether you believe in that kind of stuff or not, that's between you and God.
You laid
But
in the
it
floor for 45 minutes?
yes, praying.
Yeah.
We was at church. We were in a service, and literally I couldn't get up. I just knew that I needed to pour all of this stuff out. It was like a hand. It wasn't holding me, but it was you know just guiding my heart. And
Hmm.
I got up a different person. I did. I got up from that point. Not that I wasn't saved, and not that I. And the sad part, even though during the times where I probably was not kind to certain people, I was
Hmm.
leading Bible studies. I was doing all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff like that. I was
Yeah.
proactive in the Christian organization for athletes on campus, and was looked upon as somebody that was a leader in not just in the Christian world, but in the secular world. Student council, which by the way I hated. Somebody put me on. I got nominated. No, I'm serious. Funny story. I told my wife this other night. I said I wasn't even there. Somebody came up and goes, "Congratulations, you're on student council." And I go, "How can that happen when I wasn't even in the room?" And so I had that responsibility and I mishandled it. And I think God used that as a point to tell me that if I'm going to give you certain things, then I want you to be responsible. And the funniest part about that is like a couple years later is, you know, it's very and it's in the Bible and it just kept coming to me. I was sitting in the kitchen in my family's home. I was going to college, and the scripture about too much is given, much is required. And I knew that God had certain special things for me to do in life. And he was kind of nudging me and going, if you're gonna do these things, I kind of need you to act like an adult. And which was a struggle for me. And you can ask my wife now, I still don't act like an adult. So it's one I'm working on.
I like that though. Do you feel like that time in your life, do you feel like that time in your life that there was uh any specific moment where you actually felt badly about what you did?
Oh yeah, it was very convicting.
Yeah.
Once, especially after that prayer meeting and stuff, I was like, I looked at people differently. And it wasn't that and I want to clarify, though the statute of limitations on most of those things have run out. They it was I wasn't physically mean to people, but God gave me a really great mind to think and stuff.
Yeah.
Trust me, it was much more of a I was the instigator of a lot of things. And
Yeah.
people seem to want to follow me. I don't know why. I wouldn't follow me.
Yeah, you
Uh
had some level of magnetism at that point in time. And it sounds
yeah.
like, I mean, if you look, I've had a lot of guests on the show who even into their college years, right, haven't had that type of meeting with God. Okay. So it sounds to me like God has you pretty highly favored, because he wanted to get you out of it sooner rather than later.
And I think it was a big impact for me because I went to college. And when I got there, I didn't gravitate to the normal people that I would normally gravitate to. I
Hmm.
started looking for people in situations where maybe there was a need for some compassion, or maybe that they felt like they were alone, or that there was, and that's not to say I didn't hang out with a group of people that we were called the clique. And even on college campus, on a very large college campus, we were kind of known for our I liked, just for reference, the reason we were called the clique is we always dressed really sharp. And my wife, who will watch this podcast at some point, will want me to admit this. I may or may not have a full walk-in closet plus another closet in another bedroom full of clothes. So I want to say it for my wife so she can see this. Yes, I love clothes, and I loved clothes back then. I went a whole semester without wearing the same outfit.
What?
And yes, and you know why I knew? Is because every day I wrote down every outfit so that I would make sure that I didn't wear the same outfit for the whole quarter, the
How
semester.
did you even have room in a dorm room to keep that many
I
clothes?
didn't wasn't I didn't live on campus. I didn't want to. That felt very close. Only child syndrome. You don't
Yeah.
like being that close with that many
Yeah.
people. So I lived, actually, for my first 2 years. I lived at home, which was awesome because I my mom would cook and do my laundry, and it was because my friends. It was funny because my friends would be like, "Oh, don't you want to live?" I'm like, "Come live with us, hang out. We'll rent an apartment together." I'm like, "Dude, I go home, my mother has food ready for me. There's all kinds of stuff in the refrigerator, and like my dirty clothes, like they disappear. And I don't know what happens, but they reappear folded and back in my closet. So why would I want to live with a bunch of guys that smell?" Um, so no, for the first 2 years of my college life, I did not live with anyone or have that interaction, which I'm still fine with because that kept all my clothes. Now I have to tell you, I really did have to, when I did move out, I had to pare down. I mean, it was I would actually go home and change out clothes so that, like, I'd known what I'd worn, and I'd take. So yes, and it's still, I still, clothes are still a thing. And it's not like people go, "Oh, it's you shouldn't do that. That's wasteful." Everybody has, everybody has something. I love cars and
Mm-hmm.
clothes. Those are my two things. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do anything else. I'm rarely stupid when it comes to money other than that, but I just like clothes. I grew up, my dad was a pastor and he was on TV and radio. So he always dressed sharp. My mom always dressed really, really sharp. So I just grew up naturally with it. I mean, I knew
Yeah.
what Chanel was when I was 6,
Yeah.
and I knew what Hermé was when I was 11. So, I mean, I grew up in a home where it was, and by the way, if you don't know what Hermé is, they make, for men, they make amazing ties. You need to get, if you don't, Google it after we're done with this podcast. Don't leave yet because I may actually say something intelligent. But after we're done with the podcast, Google Hermé, get a tie. I recommend you having an Hermé tie in your wardrobe. It'll make you feel good. Yes, it's expensive, but so worth it. It just lays right on you. Makes you look like a well-dressed man. So, and no, I'm not sponsored by Hermé, though I should be for how much I spend with them.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, you've educated everybody here. So that's the fun part. So talk to me about, so you get through college, you get out of college. Are you ever tested in your faith at any point? Is there any point in your life where, yeah, talk to us about your tests.
The interesting story about that. So I leave halfway through my college career, and had to promise my parents I'd go back, but I got an offer to work in radio, in Christian radio. So I left, and I will tell you this, that when you're around Christian radio or around anything, there are times where it just seems like, you almost have an X on your back for everyone that isn't a Christian. And they're like, especially when you're young, like I was, like, 21 years old, 22 years old. And so it's almost like you're a challenge. You're Mr. Goody Two Shoes. And
Mm,
and so there's that challenge. So there were times in that experience where, in that time, and it didn't last a long time, but there is always, because you kind of, it's like, okay, God, why is this happening? And I'll tell you that that question can still happen today. It happened to me last year. God, why is this happening this way? To move forward in that. Last year, one of my major accounts that for my company was had announced to us that they were leaving, and I'm like, God, this is not fair. It's 26 years of doing this, and this is a backbone not only for me but for the people that work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And why is this happening? And why is this not, it's not fair? Well, that was kind of the way it was then. It was like, God, this is not fair. These are things I really like. I mean, that, at
Yeah.
22 years old, 21 years old, why am I, not able to partake of these things? Because as a Christian, you shouldn't. And I was like, oh, and it was tough. And I went through a struggle for about 7 8 months where I really was like, is it worth doing this? Is it worth the whole? And so if you ever question your faith, take it from somebody who is a pastor's kid, who grew up in a pastor's home, whose heritage goes back, and we haven't even talked about that, who goes back to the start of two different denominations basically on both sides of his family. um there are times where you go, is this really, am I really, is this what I want? Do I want to live such and when you're 22, it's like all these uptight rules, or you think that they're uptight. You think that, and you realize that God's not really having rules to punish you, it's more rules to protect you. And then you go through some things and you go, whew, yeah, I understand now why, God, you were trying to protect me, but nope, I'm stupid. Let's try it anyway, or let's do it anyway. And in those regrets, and those actions, they take time to go through them. And the sad thing is, and I never want to be negative, but there are things that you do in that time when you're really questioning where you are with God, or
Mm-hmm.
and you'll have actions that are not pleasing to what God wants. And those actions live forever. They live inside of you forever. He forgives you, but it's amazing how God wires our brain, and he forgives you. But and I'm one of these people, I have a hard time forgiving myself.
Yeah.
And so that was really where that is. That's a great question, by the way. I like
Y-
that.
Yeah. What,
Best
so, well,
question I've been asked in like 2 weeks.
so I'll say this is something that came up for me while you were talking. When you tell God it's not fair, what's he say to you, Rob?
See, now, just so you know, and again, for some of your listeners, they may be uncomfortable with what I'm about to say, but we have an actual
Yes.
dialogue
Yes.
conversation.
Me too. Me
We
too. So I'm going to ask you because it's not like I've not told him that before either, right? So
oh
I want to know what he
uh,
says to you.
he
It's like what
he
he says to
reminds me
me.
amazingly enough that he's God and I'm not, and that though as smart as he made me, he's smarter,
Mhm.
and his ways are much better than mine. He reminds me of that, and we talk on a real level of, hey Rob, I've got you. If you really believe I am your father, and this is a tough thing, and this is something that I think we have a whole problem generationally, and I'll get back to the answer the question, but I want to say this because it really hurts my heart. Is we have a generation of people, both men and women, who don't understand how their father loved them because
Mm.
they didn't have a dad.
Mhm.
So they have a hard time. See, I'm very blessed. I had a mom and dad who my friends would come over and laugh at the fact that my dad would chase my mom around the
Mhm.
island of our thing. He'd be saying things to her, and my buddies would be like, "This is so fun to be around, parents that love each other."
Yeah.
So I have the model of my dad was so proud of me when he passed away. He passed away in 2004,
Mm.
and he had struggled with some really bad health issues, and the amazing thing was he was on dialysis at the end, and the whole dialysis team, all the doctors came, and every one of them said, you know what he's the most proud of? He's the most proud of you. He said
Oh.
the things he would talk about the most were you, what you were doing. Hey, did you hear what my son's doing? My son's in Nashville
Oh.
recording TV right now, or my son's in Branson recording TV right now. This one nurse said, we got a play by play every week of where you were. So I have that model of what,
Mm.
if my dad wants the best for me, which, God is our father. He wants not not just good for us. He wants the best, or the most. He wants us to live in an abundance, but he wants us to live in that abundance inside of the framework that he has and the timing that he has. And sometimes when we see uh, a door close, or like this situation I had last year where I'm like, this is unfair. And God's like, hey, Rob, all these years, haven't you trusted me in everything that I've done for you? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, not always.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'm over here questioning God. He says,
At
but
least you
even
were
when you question,
honest.
yeah, even when you were questioning, it was still pretty good. It turned out right, didn't it? Well, yeah. Well, isn't this going to turn out right? And literally, the story, to close that story, literally within 24 hours of them announcing that they were canceling, they called back and said God told them in a meeting to renew their contract, and not only renew the contract for just a year, but renew it for 5 years. And so they,
Wow.
and it was, but it was, oh, we had a moment. Me and God went around. I
Yeah.
pace, I pace when I pray. I'm one of those people. So we're talking, and I mean, I'm having a full conversation. I'm like, this is not fair. I'm at an age where this is not fair. And but I'll tell you this too, though, and something I've studied out of this is God sometimes prepares you for not just new doors to open, but new hallways. And I've had that happen over the last,
Mm-hmm.
few years. He prepared a whole new hallway for us and for our company, where we're now doing Abundant TV, which is a digitally app-driven television network. Well, if you'd told me that 4.5 years ago that I was going to do that, I wouldn't even have
Mm-hmm.
known what digital television was. I wouldn't have known any of this stuff. And God put me in the hallway. Now, he didn't open all the doors right away, but he sometimes we confuse the moments that we think God isn't answering, but sometimes he's just redirecting us to a new hallway, and the
Yeah.
doors are going to open in that new hallway when the right time happens. And that's, I think, kind of where I was. And in about 4.5, 5 years ago, God started dealing with me, and knowing that, again, God is so amazing. The world for the Christian broadcast world is moving more and more to the digital side. And he gave me a hard, uh, basically, I took 4 years of college in learning how to broadcast via digital and the digital platforms and stuff. But it's opened doors for me to help other people now, for me to help on a bigger scale, on a national scale. And that's what's exciting. But it's sometimes, you just, and I wish I could tell you, and for those of you that are watching and listening, it's never, that challenge is never done. If you question those things, it's happened. So I had a big day last week, and I can't talk about it yet because the press release hasn't gone out yet. But it's a really, really huge day last Thursday. And the Friday of that, I was traveling back from Tennessee, and I was at a hotel, and I deal with anxiety. And I'm very open about it. I wasn't for a long time because, as Christians, we're supposed to hide all that stuff. And I've dealt with anxiety pretty much my whole life. And there's a story behind that, and that's for another time because we don't have that long a podcast. But I'm actually legally blind, and so that's a whole story. But last Friday, so Thursday, huge day, monumental moment, monumental day that will be part of my life forever. I will look back on that day as a
Mm-hmm.
day that was just really cool. That Friday, though, I'm getting ready to fly back home to Ohio. Well, actually, I fly to Detroit, but for those of you that are technical people and gonna question me later, it is actually, I fly to Detroit because I live in the top part of the state of Ohio, and I don't want to fly into Cleveland or anywhere else. So I fly to Detroit. But anyway, that Friday, I'm laying in the hotel room getting ready to get up the next morning to get on a flight, and I start having one of those anxiety moments. And the anxiety moment means I don't sleep that whole night. My body gets wound up, I get tight and tense.
Mm-hmm.
And yet here is the thing about that is the devil works inside of our mind,
Oh
inside
yeah.
of our, and so here, I've learned this, and I say this because I hope other people learn it, especially when the moment that God really blesses you with something incredible. Be prepared, because within a period of time, the devil is going to throw everything he can at you to make you doubt. And like my situation, are you really think you're smart enough to do this? Do you really think you
Mm-hmm.
did that? Was it a pity situation?
Yes.
Did they feel sorry for you to have you there? Did they, and you're having all that, and then you start worrying, am I going to fail at this? Is this going to be
Mm.
that bad? I don't want to fail. I don't want people to think, and you live in that moment. And all of a sudden the anxiety goes from, it's, because I had to go to bed early because I had to get up early. So it went from going to bed at like 10:15 to 2 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'm just
Mm,
going to get up here pretty quick. I have
yeah.
to be at the airport at 4 anyway. And which, by the way,
But I love that you say that because it's so true. You know, the enemy is greatest at the time when you are given the most. So, you
oh,
know, all of our world leaders, all of the people that we know that are being highly favored by God are also highly susceptible to the enemy. So I love that you said that because we don't talk about that often on this show, but that does manifest a lot for a lot of us, and we don't even realize the level of spiritual warfare that's actually happening around us. Yeah,
oh, completely.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree
yeah.
with you. That it is in it. And I really believe that the higher the level the person is, the more attacks that they have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that. Well, I can't wait to hear your exciting news whenever you're able to share that. I will be keeping an eye out for updates to see what happened on the 19th of February since you can't tell. Love it. I love it. So as you
I didn't mean to have a cliffhanger in the episode, but the story just
I
came
know.
to me and I
That's okay. We'll provide updates once you release it. I will definitely update the show and the show notes for it. So if you're seeing this maybe a month after the night, maybe actually by the time the show comes out, you may actually have your note and we'll have it in the notes right when it comes out.
awesome.
Um, Maybe we'll see. So you have dealt with anxiety your whole life. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you've been legally blind for how long?
Born that way.
Oh, you were born that way. Okay. Because that was it. You said we didn't have enough time in the episode for that
Well,
story.
it's a long story, way long, and it's a very cool story. And to be honest with you, uh, for many years, I spoke for the first time. I was praying about it, and so this is kind of a neat story. I was praying about it because it was like I don't want people to look at me for that. That I don't want people to go, well, it's
Yes.
he has a special
Hmm.
situation in his life, and so I didn't want people to see me and see that I'm blind. That wasn't what I wanted people to see. About 3 years ago now, though, I started to really pray about it. And last year, a friend of mine who is a part of a STEAM program, a national STEAM is if you have kids, it's a science and all. It's all I can't remember all the things it is, but it's a science program. And she came to me and she said, "Rob, I want you to speak." She knew my story because I had shared it with her. She said, "I want you to speak. I'm doing an event with a bunch of people from NASA, all these folks, and I want you to talk about your eyes." And she said, I want you can talk about your faith, you can do everything, but I want you to share how you didn't let what was something that for a lot of people becomes a hindrance,
Hmm.
and yet you became very successful in everything you did, and you didn't. And I said, well, it really wasn't me, it was God. And it was parents who basically went from day one and said, hey, listen, we're not going to treat him any differently. I played sports, obviously I talked about that. I was
Hmm.
really fairly good. I wasn't great. I would never, the joke always is, would you play D1? I would never have played D1. Though I did have a bunch of like, NAIA schools where you paid to go, who were very interested in me at the time. Um, but I think it was a lot to do with for me, and I got up and I spoke, and it was really refreshing. I literally had one of the heads of NASA come up to me and go, "You had me crying," and I was
Mm.
like, "I didn't mean to make you cry," because the story is a happy story. It
Yeah.
is. It's sad in the fact that it happened, but if you live your life in what happened to you, it never becomes what God can do through you.
I love that. Say that again. Say that again,
I don't
Rob.
know.
Can you say it
I don't
again?
know. No, it's not mine. It was God talking. So we can't basically is we can't let what has happened to us, dull what God wants to do through us.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's so
So
true.
it is. Yeah, I was born legally blind. My parents spent oodles of money on every specialist in the United States to try. And that was the cool part. See, so not only did I grow up in a Christian home, and people always say this because they say, "How did you get into business if your dad was a pastor?" My mom and dad owned 7 companies
Oh,
while he was a
wow.
pastor.
Oh, wow.
And so I grew up, and I'm very fortunate because people also say, "How did your mom and dad afford to have all the surgeries and
Yeah.
stuff
And
that
the
my
clothes.
Well, the clothes alone, yes. And it was their fault. It was not mine.
I
They
know.
would take me to these places. It was
I
not me
know.
at all. I
I
was
know.
5. How would I know? You could have put me in Sears clothes. I didn't know the difference, but then I did. By the time I was 11, 12, I knew. I was
Yeah.
there. I was
Yeah.
there for it. I knew what was good. But no, anyway, those were kind of the things that I dealt with. And so I got a chance to speak to them and make an impact. It was neat. I was asked to speak a couple other times. There was the president of Ohio State was there. The president of University of Texas was there, and it was really, looking back on it, I should have been a lot more nervous than I was because it was the first time I did it. But I walked through the door and just like instantly God's presence just fell
Mm-hmm.
on me. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I honestly, and they all talked about it afterwards. My wife couldn't go because she had her job is she's a lawyer, and she she unfortunately, the court doesn't go, hey, listen, it's okay, you
Yeah.
go take off and
Yeah.
go watch your husband do this. No, they kind of, the judge kind of says, no, we kind of assigned this for now. This is when we're doing it. So I got to do it. But she heard afterwards. And the funniest thing is we went to the local grocery store and did not know that all of the people were there getting stuff at the deli. And so she heard firsthand from them, like that you made an impact of all the speakers this week.
Love
And I
it.
was like, I didn't really talk about, because I got up there and I said, I now know what it feels like to be the dumbest person in a room. Because they're all doctors. I said, and literally I could say it's a bunch of rocket scientists. And they were all
And
laughing,
it would be totally
it
true.
was it was
Totally
legit.
true.
Almost all of them were had some aerospace background, even the presidents of the universities.
Wow. That's impressive. That is impressive. So talk to me a little bit about what do you do? I mean, obviously you have a pretty deep relationship with God and you've been conversating with God for a long time in your life. Is there anything specifically for you that if you feel like you might drift a little bit that you do for yourself that kind of brings you back in line?
Yes. I turn off everything else, and it sounds very cliche, but I get the computer closed, I turn off the TV, I turn off my phone, and I go spend 20 minutes. And that's
Mm,
sometimes all you need. Sometimes you need more. Hey, listen to God, whatever he says, take that time. And that reconnects, because otherwise you can get so caught up. We live in a society um, that is so instant. When I was younger, we used to call it the MTV generation, which means something changed every few minutes. Then it
mhm.
became the microwave generation, which was 30 seconds it should be done. Now we live in a situation where, and I heard this study last week, you're going to see on average each day content of some form. You're going to see 50,000 pieces of content with you opening your phone, with you being on TV, with you being on the internet, and whether that content you really recognize that it's there,
Mhm.
or it's just the background of things you're doing. You open up Facebook, you'll see content constantly, people posting content,
Mhm.
people doing stuff. And you need, so there are times where, and I really feel this way, I have turned off, and I to know me is to know I love the news. I grew
Mhm.
up in broadcasting, did radio and television, did wasn't what they call an ENG, which is the guy that goes out and stands in front of the whatever it is and reports from there. I did all those things. And really since about September of last year, I kind of took time off of television and just said, you know what? I don't need to know everything. If it's something big, my phone will go off and I'll know it's
Yes.
happening.
Yes.
But I don't need that. And I spend I more manage how much social media time I spend, because I am one of those people that can get down a rabbit hole of
Mm.
things and go, I don't need that stress. And so those are things that, and for a lot of people, causes stress. There's a new study that's getting ready to come out about that, how people have now linked social media interactions to stress. And I totally can understand it,
Oh yeah.
because there are times where you look at people and go, how did that, when did you
Yes.
ever think that was, that's not even
Yes.
close to the truth? You're like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's social media is really changed our lives significantly. Both of us were around before, right? And significantly changed our lives, and not necessarily for the better. There have been
Yeah.
some good things that have come out of it, but to your point, there's an entire digital age of people who can't spend less than 8 seconds not focused on something. The attention
Oh,
deficit is so ridiculous. They just can't
it
sit in
was
stillness and silence for more than like 8 seconds.
I was in the Nashville airport last Friday or Saturday, and it's amazing. Like we had to go to our gate, so we left. Left. We'd gone to the Delta Sky Club, not sponsored, should be. You need to sponsor her show, Delta. Just listen to me.
Yeah.
Sponsor the show. But we left the Sky Club and literally walked to our gate, which Nashville, if you know, Delta area of the airport is very small. So we walked down and literally we stood there because we had to wait, a little bit for the plane to board. And literally I watched this group of probably 20 something people, and literally they were talking. They'd put their phone down for a second, and like within 10 seconds they all three were back up doing this, and then back down. They talk for a second and back up. And I thought, that's not a good conversation. Like when my wife and I get on a plane, we sit and talk to each other. Unless less and I do want to caveat, last week, so in case somebody's on this podcast that saw us on the plane, yes, my wife and I sat there and watched the Olympics the whole way home because we're kind of Olympic junkies, and it was the skiing, and we love skiing, so it was we were watching that from like 6:30 in the morning until we landed in Detroit. So yes, normally we talk. This time we both had our headphones in and we were watching the skiing. And the funny part, when you're on a plane like that and you've got headphones in, you got to pop the headphone out and go, did you hear she's like won 6 gold medals? And you put the headphone back in,
Yep.
and that
Yep.
was it. So, but yeah, overall, you got to, I think the biggest thing that I miss is real connections.
Yes.
There's so many people that they can't stop and really talk to you because they're missing the real connect. They're missing their internet. And you're like, hey, listen, I'm just right here for only a short amount of time. And then
Yeah.
I'm moving on to the next person I need to talk to. If you could just put your phone down for like 2 seconds, we could talk. And I'm bad with it because I love checking my email. Like that's my thing, is like, because to any entrepreneur,
Yeah.
your email is
Yeah.
money. That's like a cash register
Yeah.
going off,
Yeah.
and I gotta check it.
Yeah. It is sad because I see oftentimes, you'll be out to dinner and you're looking at a table, a couple is sitting there and they're both on their respective phones, not communicating with each other. And then always often seems like when the food comes and the phones get put down that they still don't talk to each other because they don't have anything to talk about. talk about.
So my wife and I were in the Dayton area a couple weeks, well, it's a month ago now. And we were down there. We were going to speak at a church. And so we went down the night before because I'm a pizza junkie. There's a
Mhm.
really good pizza place there. So we went to this pizza place. Unfortunately, they had no outside tables. So you had to be right inside. And there was a couple right in front of us, probably mid 40s, and my wife was nudging me on the knee, and they, the whole time after they ordered, they sat there like this, doing like this. Then the pizza came, and neither of them hardly talked. And yet, if it was a date, it really was a bad date.
Mhm.
But or if there was a marriage, I mean, that's, I don't know. I'm one of these people that cherishes communications.
Yeah,
I love
same.
talking with people. I love getting to know, like, I mean, if we weren't doing this, if we weren't doing podcasts, I'd be like, so tell me about yourself. Tell me what. And so I grew up. So funny story that I knew I was going to be in media. My mom and dad for my fifth Christmas, excuse me, got me a cassette recorder with a mic, and I went around and interviewed every one of my relatives that year.
Uh-huh.
And if, like my dad said, kind of knew that was where you were headed.
Mhm.
So that was what I did. So, but I love hearing stories. And as great as our phones are and as great as social media is, I believe it causes anxiety, and I believe it can
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, because you look at it, it's like I have a friend, and like he does things that I want to do, including a car. And if you're listening to this, you know who you are. and you got your Porsche before I did, but now I'm just gonna have to get a better one. And he probably won't listen because he's busy driving his Porsche. But you know, you have that person, you go, well, I don't measure up. I don't have a Porsche yet, or I don't have this, or you know, you look at like our stuff, like my social media, and hey, I'm in Savannah, I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm in
Mhm.
Park City, and
Mhm.
it looks really cool, but they don't also see the parts that I post about working until 12:30 at night or
Yeah.
1:30 in the morning, or
Yep.
you know, that the grind part. So the people get anxiety. They're like, and then it gets, and I had this last week. I had a guy say, I don't know how you do it. And he said, it makes me feel like I'm falling behind. Well, we're not all created the same. God made us all different.
That's
And
exactly right.
just because I'm wired one way does not mean that you should be wired the same way. Or,
Mhm.
and I've really had to be careful. That's been the biggest learning curve over the last 10 years for me is I want the same stuff everybody else has, and God has the time that everything that he has for me will happen. And it doesn't mean that, and that's why I know God is good, because he won't give me things sometimes that I want. I mean, I
Yeah.
really do want the Porsche. That's
Yeah.
legit. But right now, it's not a financial, you know, justifying $225,000 for a car doesn't seem really that smart of being a good steward of what God gives you.
Yeah.
Now, would it be fun? Yes. Would Rob look really cool driving it? Yes. Would all those things, but God's over there going, "Hey, listen, I've got these other things I want you to do." Or if you do
Mhm.
that, you can't sow into other people's ministries because you're making that $3,000 a month car payment, you know?
Yep. Yep.
And I'm like,
Exactly.
yeah, but I really want the Porsche. I really do. And he's like, yeah, but I got these things I want you to do.
Yeah. So and we're getting close to time. So I want to reel it into if there was anything that you could leave the listeners with. Let's say we've got somebody out there who is like high school, Rob, okay? Who is struggling and maybe not making the choices that are in alignment with how God wants us to treat people. What would you offer that person in order to kind of reconnect and really dig deeper into their relationship with God?
It's an awesome question because I thought of that this morning. I was praying. I did not know you were going to ask that question. I was thinking of that. I think the biggest thing is that wherever you are, if you're a teenager right now or even in your early 20s, um, the decisions you make now are going to echo into your future. And that if you realize that God wants the best things for you. If you follow what he wants and what he's doing, even though it doesn't always seem easy or it doesn't seem popular or it doesn't seem like, you know, maybe there's a girl you like, but she isn't a Christian. And we won't talk about that because that actually happened to me. And dated an atheist for like 6 months. That was not a good idea. Don't recommend it. But those kinds of things are only temporary. In a relationship, in a life, at your age, you're so young, you got so much left ahead. Look at what God wants, because what he wants, like we said earlier, is he wants the best for us. He wants you to live an abundant life. It's John 10:10. It's
Mhm.
so easy. Look it up, make that your verse and say that, you know, maybe I don't understand where God has me right at this moment, but I know he has an abundant life for me. And if I
Mhm.
live and act the way he wants me to act, I'm going to have that abundant.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And it's so true. I help people come back to their abundance on a daily basis. So I absolutely love that statement. I love it.
Thank
Well,
you.
Rob, how can people find you? They want to follow you beyond the episode. We'll obviously have things in the show notes too, but I mean, how can they find you, follow you, learn from you?
Boy, I don't know if you can learn anything from me except that you making bad clothing choices seems to be an option that I have. Um, you can find me on Facebook under my name. I have a public figure page. You can find me on LinkedIn. If you're a business person, I am very proactive on LinkedIn all the time. It probably, other than Facebook, I probably spend more time on LinkedIn because it's a great connection location.
Mm,
So I spend a lot of time. Those are the best places to find me. And if you do, if you follow me on Facebook, hey, that's cool because you're going to see a lot of food posts. And we didn't even get to talk about it, but yeah, I'm a pizza junkie. So I take pictures of pizza. I take pictures of food in general.
Where's the best
Um,
pizza? Where's the best pizza you've ever had in your entire life?
best pizza I've had in my entire life.
Yes.
That's
It's tough.
It is. There's a couple that are really, really good. There's a cheap place in Savannah where you buy
Hmm.
it by the slice, and I cannot remember the name of it, but if you go to Savannah and go to the historic district,
Hmm.
it's incredible. You buy it by the slice. I was there for 4 days, and I may or may not have eaten it 3 times while I was there.
Okay.
Don't
I'll be there
judge.
on Sunday, so I'll check it
You're
out.
going to Savannah? Oh,
Hmm.
one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah, me too.
Seriously, so it's in the little mall area for those of you that care. It's in the little right behind the I think it's the Hilton Garden, and
Yeah.
it's in a little
On the
tiny
Riverwalk.
shop. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
little tiny shop. Looks like you might like need a shot afterwards, or for clear up your tetanus or anything. But
Hmm.
um, it is amazing. That's great. There's there's a place in Seattle that is no longer in business. It used to be
Oh,
called
dang.
yeah, it was Fire something. Obviously, it's been gone a few years. And that was amazing. I like real pizza though. I like it to have. I don't do well with. I love Chicago style and Detroit style. I like it all. I like it though from a mom and pop place.
Okay.
That's it. So I like
Okay.
the real thing.
Got it. Wood fired or doesn't matter?
I like it
Doesn't
all.
matter.
It doesn't matter what it is. If
Got
it's
it.
pizza, it's got cheese and sauce on it. I'm good.
I love it. I love it. Well, Rob, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing about your relationship with God. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. It's been a
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening to our episode with Rob today, and we'll catch you on the next episode.